Well, let's start. Okay, so my name is Bruno Zardo. I'm from OnSign TV, and I'm going to be your host today on this webinar. Along with us, we have Gabriel. Here, Gabriel works on our sales team.
Hello, how are you? Hello, everyone.
Great. So let me just give you a brief information about this webinar. Basically, we're going to be doing a full demonstration of OnSign TV. So we're going to go through each one of the features of OnSign TV, explain to you the basics of using it. Obviously, we're not going to dig deeper into each one of these features, but this webinar today is going to give you a very great margin in understanding of how OnSign TV works. Okay. Well, feel free to ask questions. There is a section on the left here on your board where you can write questions, and our team here is going to be answering while we are doing this demonstration. And well, let us know if everything is going fine there. Whenever you have any questions, please let us know. Okay. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen here with you. Okay, so I believe you can already see it. Oh. So this is the OnSign TV platform. So you already have at least a trial account. So you know this page already. This is the first page you see as soon as you use your credentials to log into your OnSign TV account. So let's go with the basics here at first. So what you can see on your platform as soon as you log in is this left menu. Here you have the content tab. As soon as you click on it, it's going to open this page on the right where you can manage all your contents. So up here we have the folder structure, which you can use to better organize your contents in your platform. Down here we have the media, which is basically all the contents that are not inside folders. And well, to create a new folder to better organize your content as you wish, you could right click on this area and click in create new folder. And we could just give it a name. That's folder. And whenever you want, you can select multiple contents. If you want, you can unselect them and simply drag them into the folder. It's pretty simple, similar to a Google Drive structure, right? Keep in mind that OnSign TV is a cloud-based software, so all the contents that you upload to the platform are going to be listed here in this area, and you're going to be stored on the cloud. Okay, so for each license that you subscribe to in OnSign TV, you're going to be having 1 GB of cloud storage. If we click on this little arrow here on the right side, it's going to open for us what we call the info panel. The info panel gives you more information about the files you click on, right? So if I have this file, for example, selected, I can have more information about it by using the info panel, such as its size, its dimensions, when it was last modified, and so on and so forth. Down here is where we can see how much of cloud storage we have. In my case, I have 15 licenses available in my account, so we have 15 GB of cloud storage. Here is where we can see the supported files in OnSign TV. So if I click, I can see the list of it. So all of these files here you could be uploading to OnSign TV and use in your campaigns, playlists, and publish to your players. If I want to upload new content, I could right-click in any of those areas of the content tab and click in upload file. It's going to open the regular window so you can select files you want to upload. Or I could click up here in new and click in upload file. Pretty simple, straightforward, easy to use. If I click on this section right here, I can change how I view my content tab. So I can select it to be listed, or I can select it to be seen as a grid. Up here we have the search bar. As I have multiple contents in my account, I use it a lot. So you could filter it by location in folders. You could filter it by tags. Remember, you can tag each content. We can filter it by type, like a campaign, a playlist, audio playlist, last time modified, and even status, if it's published, paused, restricted, or not. Okay, so we talked about the content tab. So now let's click on the players tab. This is where all your screens are going to be listed. Okay, so if I have, per se, 200 screens associated in my platform, I could be seeing all of them here, listed here. I can also have some information already just by glancing it. So I have information telling me that it's offline, it's out of sync, and it has 0 errors. I could also see some thumbnails of the contents that are published to my screens. On this part right here, I have the name of my player, the tag, if I have any tags associated to it, my player version. If it's an Android device, it's going to be saying here Android player and its version. If it's a Mac player, it's going to be telling me Mac. If it's a Windows, if it's a Samsung SSP, and so on and so forth. This information here tells me that this player is inside a group called Students Union. I'm going to be talking about the player groups later on. I could even use the search bar to filter my players, because when we talk about thousands of screens associated to one account, this search bar can be very helpful in many ways. So I could filter it by status, if it's connected, or if it has, if it's out of sync, if it's in sync. I could filter it by groups, seeing all the players in a specific group. I could filter it by tag, less seen time, number of campaigns published to it, version of the player, and operating system. To associate a new player to my account, it's very easy. I just have to click up here in Setup Player, and it's going to open this page for me requesting a code. So let me explain to you how that's going to work. Imagine that you have a screen in a restaurant, okay? And you want to be able to manage that screen remotely using OnSign TV. So in that location of the restaurant, you have to have internet connection. It could be a 3G connection, or it could be a Wi-Fi connection, right? But just remember that you need to have internet connection in order to associate that screen to your account, right? And obviously synchronizing contents, you publish it to that player, okay? So on that venue, you need a television, a screen, right? And depending on the arrangement that you're going to have regarding the operating system, the type of device you're going to be using, essentially you would need a TV and an external hardware, right? Let's talk a little bit more about this hardware option. So I'm just going to open OnSign TV website here. And I want to talk about players, okay? So let me click here in choosing your player hardware. So OnSign TV is compatible with most of the operating systems out there, right? So you could be creating setups for digital signage with multiple operating system and different hardwares. So you could have a TV and a Windows device attached to that TV, Android device, a Mac OS, a Chrome OS device, and a Linux device. Also bright sign devices as well. But we could be also talking about the Samsung and LG WebOS TVs, also Philips D lines. So these are essentially TVs made for digital signage specifically. These are more robust hardware. They are made to be playing back content 24/7. And basically the main difference that they have is that they have an operating system built in um, this hardware. So if we're talking about Samsung SSPs, they have an operating system built in, so we could install OnSign TV directly into that TV. And the main advantage on that is that you don't need an external hardware in order to run OnSign TV on that end, okay? So as we're talking about this restaurant where you want to manage that screen, if you had a Samsung SSP there, you wouldn't need an external hardware. If you have a regular TV and you opt to attach an Android device, you would need this external Android box. It's simply a small computer. You would put it behind the TV and have the OnSign TV player installed in it. If it is an Android device, we could click here on Android and download the app for that player. So essentially, we're going to be having a piece of software downloaded and installed in that hardware on the restaurant. And in our computer, we could log into OnSign TV platform from actually any computer just by using your credentials, obviously, and manage that player remotely. Okay. So I would click in download here. It's going to download an SDK for Android players, and I could put it in a USB drive, plug it in my Android player, and install it there. As soon as I install my OnSign TV player, I'm going to be able to see the software just like a regular application on Android devices. In my case, I'm using a Mac OS. So I just have the player here in my account. So this is what you're going to see. What you're going to see after you launch the OnSign TV player. Okay. So essentially, you have a code here on the bottom, and this is what we're going to be using to associate that screen with our account. So getting back to that example I was telling you about the restaurant. So you're going to look at the screen on the restaurant, copy the code that you see there, go back to your OnSign TV platform, click in Setup Player, and paste the code right there. After clicking in Setup Player, it's going to ask us for a name. So let's call it Webinar Player. Remember, I told you about tags. We can tag this player already, and after we could be restricting contents regarding to those tags. And we could also include this player already to a group. This is an important information because when we are publishing campaigns, playlists, images, videos to a player group, that content is published to all the players inside that group, okay? So if I am associating a new player and I add that player to Students Union group, for example, and I click in Add Player, that's going to publish the content already to this player as well. So it's going to start already playing back a campaign, okay? For this example, I'm not going to add it to this group as I want to show you how the player is going to behave after we associate it. So I'm going to click in Add Player, and I can click on my software here. And this is what you're going to be seeing on the restaurant screen. Remember that? And now it just tells us that we have no campaigns assigned. So this is our goal now, is publish content to that player. Let me just check if you have any questions here. Okay, just checking in. No questions. Well, all good for now, guys. Again, you have the questions and answer section on the left. Feel free to ask any questions you want. Okay. All right, getting back to it. Let me share the screen. Share screen. Okay. Well, we have our new player already listed in our players tab. You can see that different from the others. Now this player is saying that it's online, it's synchronized, and it has no errors. We can also see the player version and the operating system. If we click on that player, we could have lots of information about it right away. So all the events that happens on that player are going to be listed here in this area. We could filter it as we want, like only warnings, only errors, content playback, content updates, and player initialization. We could also mark it as red if we want. Down here, we have the player information. So again, we see the system version, the player version. We can also see the association date, last seen, the location, resolution of that screen, and the IP address. Also the local time. The local time is important because OnSign TV applications are going to be using this time to publish information correctly, just like the clock apps. We're going to see those later as well. When we click in remote view, we can see live time what is going on that screen. And this is a really important thing. So you don't need to go out there on the venue to see what's going on that screen. You could do that remotely. Content in player is going to show us all the campaigns, playlists, and files that are published to that player. On the loop, you're going to see the exact loop of that player. We see resource usage of that player as well, CPU, network, CPU usage, network traffic, connectivity, memory, and uptime of that player. We have the settings section here. This is an important section as well for you guys to know more about. Let's say that I want to add a tag to this player. I need to go to the settings section and add a tag through here, or add this player to a group from here can be done as well on the settings. We have some player settings here as automatically start the app when the device is booting up, automatically apply available updates, hide helpful messages shown on player screen. We can also change the video playback mode if needed, the volume of the player. We could mute the audio of that player if we want to. We can also set up this player to be rebooting every 1 day or 2 days, 3 days, and so on and so forth, and also the time of that reboot. If we want to skip campaigns with errors, we could also add a campaign playback mask. We could synchronize the playback with SSPs and LG WebOSs as well. We could see the location of that player through here and also modify the location if we want to. We could set up the email notifications. So every time that some notification has to be sent to an email, you could select what email will receive that notification. Also, we could be notified if that player goes offline and select when that's going to be done. And also be able to be notified when the player comes back online. Here you could set up a custom logo for that player and also the working schedule, okay? You could select some stuff to be happening when the player is not on the working schedule. And here is how you set up the schedule itself. Just keep in mind that depending on what you choose here to be happening when the player is out of working schedule should be checked out, as some of these options here are compatible with only specific devices, okay? You could also be setting up some network configurations here, such as content update interval and a download schedule. So you could schedule the player to download content according to your needs. And down here, we also have the brightness control. This is a really great feature, as imagine that you have a huge LED panel outdoors on a very crowded street, for example, on a road, let's say, and you want that LED screen to be not too bright when it's nighttime. So we could click here, enabling the brightness control. And down here, we could be setting up a schedule for that brightness intensity to be lower. So let's say that we want the brightness intensity to be 50% when it's nighttime. And to reflect nighttime here, I'm just going to put 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. And my brightness intensity is going to be 50%. And this is how I set up the brightness control. Going up here again, we also have the interactivity on the player. There are two ways of doing the interactivity. One is straight on the player and the other one is on campaigns. So when doing it on players, you can click in Add Interaction. For this demonstration, let's stick to the touch region. Keep in mind you're going to need a touchscreen device. So what region is going to be having interaction? It could be any region of that player, or it could be a custom region. And we could set up that custom region as we want. Let's say that when the person touches this region here, I want it to be playing a different campaign. So I could select what campaign will be playing back after someone touches this custom region. After I'm good with interactivity rule, I can click in OK, and it's going to be listed here along with others that I create. Okay, I'm just going to delete this one, keep it like this for the moment. After, I'm going to show you how to create interactivity on campaigns. Down here, we have the permissions of the player. So you're going to see later as well that we can create different users for OnSign TV platform. And for each of those users, you could be having different permissions. So a user could be having permission to this webinar player if I add him here as a user that has permission. I could be even setting up specific permissions for him. Okay, so now let's get some content published. So going back here to the content tab, I want to publish a campaign to my player. Okay, so I'm just going to click here in new, click in campaign. I'm just going to give it a name here, webinar campaign. Down here is where I select the screen layout. I could be selecting one of the layouts that already come with the platform, or I could create a custom layout by clicking there on add custom layout and arrange it as I want. Okay. I could add up to 10 divisions to my screen. I could change the resolution from here, and I could also change the device orientation. For this example, I'm going to be using a layout that I already have here. So the layout that I'm going to be using is going to be this one. Okay. So if you noticed, for each one of the frames of the areas that we have in our layout, I'm going to be having a timeline. And what I could simply do is drag contents into those timelines. So I want to drag this image on this bigger frame. On the right side here, I want to be adding an app, and I'm going to be showing you as well how we can create those apps. So for now, let me just get a weather application on this right part. And on the bottom, I want a finance app displaying currency information. So it's going to be this one. There we go. So we have two apps, one being displayed on the bottom, one being displayed on the right top corner, and an image being displayed on the main frame. Okay. Let's add another image, that main frame. So in this case, currently I have 10 seconds of the first image and 10 other seconds of the second image. The total length of my campaign is fixed to 30 seconds. So I could change that manually, or I can make it automatic. When I make it automatic, as soon as I add more contents into my campaign, it's going to change it automatically. And to take some stuff off, I simply drag it down. I also want to be exhibiting a video. So to find a video in my account, I'm going to be using the search bar and click here in type and select video. So I have these two videos. I want to be adding this cocktail video here on the middle of my two campings. Another thing I could be doing here is obviously adjusting the length of each one of my images. And the adjustment that I want to do is I want both images to be 5 seconds only. And my main video here is going to be its duration, which is 12 seconds. When I click on the item, I could select a transition. Let's just select the fade in. I could even manage the volume of that video and click and apply. I want to also add a transition to my images. For this one, I want to slide over left to right. For this one, I want to slide over right to left. Another thing you can keep in mind is that you can change the aspect ratio of the images you add. In this case, it's a stretch, so it's going to fit width and height. But we could keep it original, fit height, or fit width. Okay, and apply. These two contents here on the bottom, as you can see, they don't take 22 seconds as our first timeline here, but they're going to be looping. So that's okay. There's no issue at all with that. Okay. Well, we're good with the camping. We could click in preview and see how it looks like before we publish it to the screens. So it's just going to take some time to load and start showing us the content that we created. And I'm going to close. So now we can publish it to the players. Save and publish and click in go to publishing page. So now we are on the camping page. So whenever we click on a camping that is already created, this is what we're going to see. And we could edit it or we could create an interactivity. So when I click on it, I have a really similar page to the interactivity on the players. And I can click and add interactivity. I can select touch a region. And now I have options of regions different from the interactivity on player, which I only had any, and custom region. So now I can tell my platform that when someone touches this region 2, which is this one on the right side here, it's a weather app. I want to replace the region 1, which is the main region, when any media is playing, with a different media. So when someone touches the weather app on the right side, I want the main area to be replaced by this other weather app here. So I can click in confirm and click in OK. Now my rule of interactivity is created. I can click in save. Let's go back to the publishing page of the campaign. And now I want to click on publish up here. So now we are in the publishing page. And here we have 3 different folders. We have playlists and content. We have player groups and we have players. The screen that we have associated today is here in players and it's called webinar player. So if I double click the player, it's going to be already selected as a destination. If we want to remove it from the destination section, I could simply select it and put it back there. But let's just keep it there, okay? Remember, we could also be filtering, also using the tags, the types, and last time modified. Down here is where we're going to be finding the playback restrictions and how to play it. The playback restrictions can be used to add a restriction telling the platform only when the campaign should be played back and when it when it shouldn't play back. Okay, let's just select play only when, and let's say that the restaurant which we are doing the digital signage to, wants this content, this campaign to be played back only on weekdays. So I'm just going to click in add restriction, click here in during a period of time, and just select Sunday and Saturday. So now that campaign will be played back only on weekdays. We could also set up a time interval and also a date, a starting date and an ending date. We could also restrict the playback of this campaign according to the tags. Remember, we could tag the players. So we could tell the platform to only play back this content to the players that have the tag University 1. And we could also do a restriction regarding the location of that player. Just keep in mind that the location must be a bit precise at least. Remember, we could change the location of the player manually on the settings of the player, but it's essential that you have a GPS on your player to use this feature the best way possible. To select a location of restrictions, we need to manage the geographic regions first. In my case, I already have some geographic locations created. As you can see, if I click on this part here, it gives me already lots of different regions. But let's create a new one. So I click here in Manage Geographic Regions. Let's zoom out a bit, and I'm going up there to the United States. And let's go to Florida and Orlando. Let's say that the restaurant which we are doing this campaign for is a restaurant in MCO, the airport for Orlando. And this campaign should be played back only when, only on the players that are near this specific airport. So we need to click up here in New. We could select a center point for the circle, and we could stretch here up to the region we want. And now let's just call it a region. So let's call it MTO, which is the name of the airport, and click and save. So now our region is created. It's set up here along with the other regions. And now I want to go back to the publishing page and select the MTO region. So there it is. Now this campaign should be only played back on weekdays, regardless of player tags, but it should be only played back on players inside this geographic region that we created. Okay? Well, as I want to see this campaign played back on my player here for the demonstration, I'm going to select here play regardless of player location. And I'm going to click on apply. When I click on apply, the restriction is going to be listed here. And obviously I could add more restrictions if I want to, but let's just keep it like that. I hope you have already understood how the restrictions are developed. Down here is where we select how this campaign will be played back. If it's going to be played back on the primary loop, which is the main loop of a player, on the fallback loop, which is basically a backup loop. So if I don't have anything else to be played back on that player at that time, it should be starting the playback of the fallback loop. We could be selecting it to be played back on demand, and there are a couple of ways for us to demand the playback. The first one is by clicking on a play button that we can see on the player page. Or the second one is that we can extract a URL that should be triggering that on-demand playback. This way you could be creating some great marketing, digital signage marketing strategies, which are, for example, let's say that you have a campaign with a QR code on that campaign. And when someone reads that QR code with their smartphone, it triggers a different campaign. And It could be also redirecting their smartphone to a specific URL as well, which you would be typing it here. Play when crossing a geofence. It's also going to be working with the geolocation management that I showed you before. We could be also selecting the MTO region we created before, and we could select this trigger to be happening when entering the region or when leaving the region. This is usually great for what we call in-vehicle digital signage. So campaigns that have players inside taxis, buses, trains, and so on and so forth. Or we could select this campaign to be starting at a specific time. So let's say that it starts at 8 a.m. and repeats every 5 minutes. This could be a different way for us to publish the campaign. For this example, let's just keep it on primary loop. And after we go with it, we just click in publish. So now we are still on the campaign page. We can see down here that this campaign is published to the webinar player, and it has this restriction down here. If we click on the webinar player, we can see that it's synchronizing. There we can see the loading stage, right? And if we look at the player, we can see that it's also loading, also synchronizing. Let me just take a look if you have any questions here. Okay, looks like we're good. Perfect. Let me share the screen again. Again, feel free to ask any questions you want. Perfect. Our player should be already playing back the content. As you can see here, we have the image we set up, the apps on the bottom, on the right. All good. So now we could be seeing the playing loop. So as we only have one campaign, this should be the only thing being played back. Okay, so this is the only thing that we can see on the loop. Okay, so now let's go for the player groups. Well, it's a very simple concept here. You can basically create a group with multiple players and publish a content specifically to a group, and that content will be played back in all those players, right? So to create a new group, we just click up here and create group, select a name for that group, and also select the players that are going to be in that group, okay? And down here, we have the dashboard. The dashboard you can use to see all the players that you have associated to your account, see the app version, what is the content, if the content is synchronized or not, and if they are connected or not. In this case, I have 3 offline players and 1 online player. Going back to the content here, I promised that I was going to talk to you about the clock apps, the weather apps, and the finance apps we used in our campaign. So let's do that. When I click in new, I have the option to click on apps as well. And here we have more than 100 applications you could be using on your campaigns and playlists. If I click on the section of clocks, on the clocks category, we can see all the clocks that it could be using for your campaigns. We have entertainment applications, finance apps, meeting rooms and calendars, mini boards and tables, news and RSS feeds, office apps, some other applications that might be useful for you, just like flight status, HDMI input for displaying local TV channels, social networks, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, streaming of videos, sports, text and scrollers, message app, some third parties as well that might be useful, weather apps, multiple weather apps with different formats and designs for you to use in your campaigns, website and medias. This one is a great option as well because you could basically display any website you want by simply pasting the URL here And when this app starts, it's going to display the website page, that URL page that you input here. Each one of these apps, whenever you click on them, you're going to be seeing this configuration page. This is where you can configure how that app is going to be displayed. So you could change the base currency in this example, the exchange currencies that you're going to be setting up there. So let me just add a couple ones here. The spread, header text, show each currency for a specific amount of seconds. We could change its color. We could upload text fonts to the platform and select different fonts, or use the fonts that we already offer here. Change the background color, background image if we want to add one. And about the background color, one thing that you could be doing, which is great, is you can drag this little arrow here to the transparency area here. And you could be having this app overlaying a video, for example, or some other image, and have a really great configuration there, where you have a video behind the app displaying whatever contents you want. So it gives you a sense of movement and a great design on your campaigns. So when we're good with the app, we can click in preview and see how the app looks like before we have it published or included in a playlist. As I have set up a transparency background, the chart is not being shown. Let me just change that real fast. So on background color, let's just make it this orange here. Okay, in preview. So now we have the chart being displayed. Well, and when we go with the specific app, we can click and save, and the app is going to be displayed along with the other medias, and could be selected into a campaign, just like we did before on the first campaign we created. Okay. So take some time later on to navigate through the apps category, as there are multiple things you could be seeing here and achieving with this apps. Okay. About the apps as well, what I want to show you now is the data feeds. To create a data feed, you just click here in New and click in Data Feed. The data feed is basically a spreadsheet with columns and rows you could be creating in OnSign TV, or creating from a source. We could create it manually, as it's selected here to be created, or we can select it from create it from a source. It could be created from an RSS, from a CSV, from file or URL, from a Google spreadsheet, a Facebook page, XML file or URL, from your Instagram account, Twitter account, or from another data feed. When creating a data feed from a Google Sheets, this could be a great thing for you to manage. Still taking advantage of the restaurant case that I brought. Imagine that on that restaurant, we should be creating a menu board for them. Okay. So we could be using one of the applications for menu board that use a data feed. So that application would be fed with a data feed, and that data feed would be created from a Google spreadsheet. So in that Google spreadsheet, you would have a column with the items and a column with the prices, for example. And the end user, the restaurant owner or manager, could be adding the items to the Google spreadsheet and changing the prices as they want. If this data feed was created with this Google spreadsheet previously, every time that it changes, it's going to be automatically updating this data feed and updating the app on the end, and then the campaign, and change that instantly or automatically on the player displaying the contents. So this could be a really great way for you to change content easily without needing your end client to be changing the content manually through OnSign TV. They could be changing the content through a Google spreadsheet. In this case, let's just create a menu data feed here, and I'm going to be giving you an example of a coffee shop coffee shop webinar. And clicking create. In our coffee shop, we're going to be having a column for names and a column for prices. Okay, so the first column is going to be item name, and the type of that column is text. We can click in create column, and we are going to click here in new column and create item price. And what we need to do here is change the type for number and click in create column. So now we can simply add the roles here. So we could call the first one espresso. The price is going to be $2. The second one is going to be a latte. $1 doesn't make sense for a latte. Let's just put 3. And a mocha, which is going to be 4. And we're good for the example. Let me just delete this last one. Okay, so we have a simple spreadsheet here, and we can click in save. So now our data feed is saved here. It's included in our media here. So it's not organized in folder. We will need the search bar here to find it. But what we need to do now is create an app that uses that data feed. So I'm just going to click in app here. I'm going on the mini boards and tables category, and I'm going to select this mini board classic, that mini board basic. Okay, so let's call it webinar coffee shop. This is going to be the name of the app. The data feed is going to be the one that we have just created. Coffee shop webinar. Here it is. I double clicked it, and now it's going to open this page for us to match the columns of the data feed with the columns that the app uses. So item name, and item price, and confirm. The full currency symbol for us in this case is going to be a $sign. Amount of lines displayed per page. I'm just going to leave it open as we only have 3. Show each page for 15 seconds. We could select a header logo. We could change the title. Let's just keep it coffee shop. Footer text, could put your company name, font size, item subtitle font size, the text font, item subtitle font, the title color, the subtitle color, secondary color, font color. So, well, basically we could be editing anything about this app. When we're good with it, we can click in preview. And now we have the data feed added to this app and feeding this application in order to display this information. So this is how we use data feeds in apps, okay? Great. So I guess we have already learned how to use the campaigns, how to use applications and data feeds. Now I want to show you how to create a playlist. So I can simply click here in new playlist. And the concept of a playlist is pretty common, but basically we have this area here on the right side, and we could drag content in it as we want. And we could add multiple types of contents. We could add apps, we could add images, campaigns, and even other playlists, okay? It also has a different look. As you can see, the apps are purple, the images are this yellow, this sand color. The campaigns, they have this little bar on top. And the playlists, they are also a little bit different, this blue bar here. A great thing about nesting playlists is that you can create cycling configurations. So let's say that this calendar task playlist here has a cycling of 1. Okay, and the cycling could be set up by clicking here in play all items and clicking cycle items. So now this playlist that we are creating right now has a cycling configuration of 1. It means that every time that this playlist starts its playback, it's going to play only one content of all the contents it has in it. So imagine that we have, for example, 5 contents in this calendar task playlist. If the cycling of this playlist is set to 1, it's only going to play back one content at a time. So if we start the loop right here, it's going to get into this playlist, play one content as the cycling is set to 1, and then play the next second, the next content that we have in our playlist, and then the other one, and then the other one, until it finishes the loop. And when it goes back again, when it starts again the loop, it's going to start from the second content and play again only one, as the cycling is set to 1. We could also set up the cycling to be 2. So it would be playing back 2 contents at a time, not all of the contents in the playlist, and it would also skip the items that it has already played back before. Okay? So the playlists are a very great way for you to publish contents with cycling. Let's say that you have like 2 libraries of different things, like one playlist you create with advertisements and one playlist you create with entertainment contents like web apps, like news, or any other entertainment type of content you want. So you want 2 ads to be played back and then 1 entertainment content. So you could create these 2 playlists and you have a cycling of 2 on the playlist of ads and a cycling of 1 on the playlist of entertainment. So this way it could be distributing this types of contents throughout your playback loop. Okay. The last thing I want to show you here on content is the audio loop on playlists. So this is a recent feature that we have just launched. Now it's possible for you to create audio loops on OnSign TV. So just looking for my music folder here. In my music folder, I have a couple of MP3 files here, and I could simply drag them into my playlist here. And I can publish this playlist of audio to all of my players. This could give you another possibility of extra profit if you want to also offer commercial radio for your clients. You could be also using OnSign TV for that. And the great thing about this is that when you publish this audio playlist to a player, it creates a different section of playback. As we have the primary loop and we have the fallback loop, we also have the audio loop. So it would be a different section on each player. It means that you could be playing back a campaign with images and videos and also have the audio looping being played back. And at a certain time, you want to set up this audio loop to be paused in order to hear whatever sound the video has. It's also possible to do. As when we are creating the content, and to show you that, I want to go to the campaign we published, contents in player. This is the campaign. So we have this video here, and let's say that we have the audio loop being played back along with the campaign. And when the video starts, I want the audio to be paused, reduce the volume. And to do that, I can reduce the volume of others to 0. So the volume of the video is going to keep on 100, and the volume of others is going to be taken to 0. And I can click and apply. So now every time this campaign gets to the video, it's going to reduce the volume of other stuff and play back only with the audio of the video. Okay, and when it ends, obviously it's going to get back to the audio. So this is a great thing for you to do as well. We have the health check option here. So it basically gives you information about stuff that could be wrong or could be not exactly right. but it's just a heads up of things that might be wrong on your platform that you could be rearranging and correcting before something wrong happens, or sometimes errors as well. This is the geographic regions section where you can manage all your geographic regions. This is the report area where you can extract single reports or schedule reports. And to do that, we can click in new report. We could give this report a name, add schedules to it on rules, also selecting the report period. Down here, you can select the players that are going to be listed in this report, also player groups if you want to. The contents in this report, we could also filter it by tags. And down here, you can select the report kind. If it's going to be a total summary, summary by day, by player, by day and player, daily summary by player, and individual playbacks. Also select different output formats. You can change the format of the report as well. From here, select the report description and even send it automatically to emails you want to. So this would be what we call a proof of play. Whenever a content is played back, it gets extracted in a report, whenever you create it, obviously, and it can be sent automatically to you, to your client, whoever you want, without needing to work further on that. And we also offer the audit log to enterprise accounts, which gives you information about every and each thing that was done in the platform and who did it. And the last thing I want to show you is the users. So in OnSign TV, you could be having multiple users, and they're separated in two types, restricted and admin users. To get to there, let's just click here in settings and click in users, okay? Here we can see two users that I already have set up to my account, but let's create a new one. So I'm going to click here in create user. The full name of that user, let's call it Dan at OnSign.tv. Let's just type in whatever password and we can enforce the password change. The account type, as I mentioned, there are two, restricted and administrator. And when we select a restricted user, we can even choose what that user is going to be allowed to do in the platform. So add players, create player groups, to view the dashboard, and so on and so forth. So we can just click here in save changes. I've already used it. Then H. Okay. And click in save. Okay, let's just correct it. Let me minimize here the player. Anyhow, maybe this works. Already used as well. And Zardo, which is my last name. And the password. Save changes. Okay, now then it's created. Here we are in the user page. So some things that we can do here is change the content permission. So we can select exactly what folders and files that user is going to be having access to, and specifically what he's going to be able to do with those files and folders. Player permission, where you can select a player to give him a specific use for that, and even what they're going to be able to do there, or even player groups. And integration account permissions, we can also give him permission to have access to the integration accounts. Same thing for geographic regions, right? When selecting users, there's also a great thing that can be done, which is the user groups. So we have created Daniel Zardo here, and Daniel Zardo is a single user and is not included in any group. And he's also a restricted user, right? So we could create a group of users. Let's call this group OnSign TV users, okay? And here we could add Daniel Zardo, okay? Okay, and now we can select specifically what this user groups are going to be able to do. Even though Daniel specifically doesn't have permission to do these three things, as he is added already to the group that I'm creating right now, now he's going to be able to have access to those. If I remove Daniel from that group, obviously he's going to lose those permissions, but this is a great way for you to manage the permissions and configure those accordingly when you're managing a huge team, for example. Okay. Well, guys, this is basically what I wanted to talk to you about today. Well, there are multiple features that we were not able to cover today, but we are open for questions. So you can use the section on the left there for questions and answers. Okay. And definitely send us an email if you have any specific questions, or if you remind us something later on after we finish the webinar. Feel free to send us an email to support@onsign.tv in case you have any questions or anything you need. Okay. Let me just check here if we're good regarding questions. Okay, we're good. Well, thank you a lot, guys. I really appreciate this. This is the first webinar we do for a full demonstration. It has been great talking to you today. I really appreciate the presence of each one of you. Okay. Okay, I have a question here. Let me just check. Okay, what happens if a player gets disconnected from network? Okay, so remember I mentioned we need internet connection for a player to be first associated for the first time and to be synchronized, right? So after we do the association, after we synchronize the content and the campaign is being played back flawlessly, let's say that we lose internet connection on the venue, on the restaurant, right? Which was the example that we were talking about. Every time that we publish a content to the player and it synchronizes, it's going to download all those contents, the images, the videos, the apps, in order to keep playing it back flawlessly, right? So if we lose connection there, the campaign is going to be playing back with no issues at all. Just obviously keep in mind that if you are streaming some content, if you're using an application that streams or that displays a website, that's not going to be occurring, right? But regarding images, videos that you publish that are inside campaigns and playlists, it's going to keep playing back the content flawlessly. Okay, thank you for the question. Okay. Great. Let me just check if we have any other questions yet. Okay. Wow. Does OnSign TV support the playback of synced content through multiple screens? Yes, it does. So let me just show you how that can be done. Okay. So again, getting back to the restaurant, let's say that we are having a mini board, okay, and we have multiple screens above the counter, right, displaying the video of a sandwich or of a burger, right, and you want to synchronize those screens. So to do that, you need to create a group with all the screens that are going to be that are going to be there. Okay, so let's just create a simple group here. Single players, okay, and we have to click here in enable synchronized playback on players in this group. Okay, so we just select all of them here and click, and we need to choose the playback lead. Okay, so one of the players is going to be the lead, so the synchronized players are going to be guided through by this synchronized player lead. So all the campaigns that they have are going to be synchronized based on this first player here that was selected. Okay, so we save the group. And when we publish the content, it's going to be synchronized with those players, okay? If you have any other specific questions about how to synchronize content and how to play back synchronized content, you could definitely just go to our training and session support here. We have tips and video tutorials regarding that as well. And also check our tutorials page. Here you have lots of information about that specifically and other stuff as well, obviously. Okay. If you would like to get more specific information on this synchronizing part as well, make sure to send us an email to support@OnSign TV, and we're going to be happy to help you with that. As synchronized players have some specific details and specifications regarding its